Hello, and today's video is the second video of me reviewing every single Doctor Who episode, from the first Doctor to however long this goes on for. For now, I'll just say till Jodie Whittaker. Today I will be reviewing Season 2 of the Classic Era. I've already explained the difference between seasons and series, to why they're called that, in the previous video. And today we're starting off with Planet of the Giants. Okay, this one's a bit of a mixed opinion with me. For what it gives you, the Planet of the Giants, from face value you think, oh great, a alien planet that's just full of giants, and the Doctor, Ian and Barbara and Susan have to survive throughout all of this. There is that. Problem is, it's not an alien planet, it's just 1960s Earth. Just the fact that the dimension controls of the TARDIS have decided to malfunction. Well, here it says the main doors open accidentally while the ship is still in flight, so probably that's what happened to the dimensions. But they are reduced to size, as you can pretty much see from the picture. They're pretty much around about the size of ants. They just basically are in a garden, someone's garden, and they are just surviving random aspects of basically their reduced size. So that's, yeah. The only reason why I have mixed opinions with Planet of the Giants is because, from what you are told, from face value, you'd expect that. But I do really like the way they portrayed it, and like the peril and all that stuff, and kind of the model work of it. And just, I love the idea and the concept. It's amazing. It's not really, yeah. But moving on to the Dalek invasion of Earth. This story is still a mixed opinion for me, because it's quite long, but it's still enjoyable, and it's the first ever companion departure. So, Susan leaves because of love. What was it? Well, it doesn't say on the back here, but yeah. But basically, Daleks invade Earth in, does it tell you? Middle of the 21st century, so I would say around about, 21st century? Oh. I guess I never really thought about that necessarily. I only thought it was like the 22nd or something. The 22nd century, like 2100. But middle of the 21st century. So I would assume that's about like 2050 sort of time. That's actually kind of interesting, because isn't there like a New Who episode set around about the middle of the 21st century, like the waters of Mars, and they've never, this whole invasion thing never gets mentioned in the entirety of any further existence of this. This is pretty much somewhat of a standalone thing. It's never mentioned ever. Like the Daleks but Daleks never mention it, the Doctor never really mentions it, the whole series never really mentions it. That needs to be mentioned more, because it's actually an invasion of Earth. But like I said, Susan leaves, pretty much, at the end of this story. She falls in love and leaves. Well, sort of a mixture of, she wants to leave, but she doesn't want to leave the Doctor, her grandfather. But the Doctor says, no, you're young. Live your life. You don't want to be looking after me for the rest of your life. So, he kind of, in a way, forces her to leave. But basically just says, no. I don't... Live your life. Pretty much the summary of that is live your life. And there will be the quote that the Doctor says... the quote that the Doctor says to Susan when he leaves. Then, moving on, sort of not really skimming over these, but just because it's kind of self-explanatory for the two ones. Then you have the rescue. Just moving on to the rescue, where we gain a new companion. This is 2 episodes, by the way. Another short one, actually, yeah. 2 episodes. And we have a new companion called Vicky. Picture here. Just, yeah. Well, the summary of it is, well, reading. When the TARDIS lands on a supposedly peaceful planet, Dido, at the end of the 25th century, the Doctor, Barbara and Ian discover a crashed spaceship waiting for help. The only survivors have been murdered by natives apart from a young orphan girl and a paralyzed man. But who is the strange creature, I'm not saying that word because I can't pronounce it, that they are afraid of? Oh, it's just literally Coquillin. I literally could have read that. And will they remain safe long enough to be restored? Spoiler alert, that paralyzed man is the creature. It's to terrify Vicky into not getting help. But we have a new companion, Vicky. Which is kind of interesting because she's like from the 25th century. It's intriguing. Like, other than like the Doctor and Susan, we never had. This is like the first future human we've had as a companion. Basically, like, it's only 2 episodes. They find the spaceship wanting help. They find Vicky, the monster. The Doctor deducts that the monster and the paralyzed man never interact, so kind of figures out that it's him. And yeah, Vicky joins the TARDIS crew, and we move on to my favourite historical of this season, the Romans. This, like the Reign of Terror, I have watched countlessly. Basically, summary of this, it's 64 AD, so the reign of Nero. Not really sure about the historical context of it, but Rome burns at the end. But kind of like a shore leave for the TARDIS crew, they kind of like a vacation. The Doctor and Vicky leave to go to Rome, and Ian and Barbara are left back at the kind of villa place. But while Ian and Barbara are there, they get captured and then put as Roman slaves. Barbara is sold off to, sold off to Nero. Ian remains a slave onto a ship going to Rome. I think it's away from Rome. Then they crash the ship. Ian gathers a group of people to crash the ship onto land to where near Rome, I believe. But while that happens, the Doctor and Vicky find a lyra player. You know, like, the only way to describe it is like a handheld harp. There'll probably be a picture to explain it much better than I can. But, and the Doctor looks like this lyra player, so he picks it up, but then gets mistaken for him. And Vicky, being an assistant, they then get taken to Rome, where the murderer who murdered the original player comes in to try and murder the Doctor. But the Doctor plays around with a little bit of fisticuffs, as he puts it, and basically defeats this murderer by smashing a face over his head. Or a vase, whatever way you want to say it. Vase vase. It kind of all rounds up, and they constantly, the 3 of them, so Barbara, Vicky and the Doctor, almost run into each other until there's a gladiator battle with Ian there. Yeah, because Ian finds his way there. Can't really remember the context of how it is. It's 4 episodes, so yeah. So Barbara sees Ian. Although Nero tries to flirt with Barbara, and Nero's wife is jealous of Barbara, but tries to poison her. Vicky then stops that without knowing what the plan was. The Doctor tries to, like, he doesn't even play the lyra, he just silently does this, and they just imagine the music. It's kind of hilarious. Then, pretty much at the end of it, they all come together, get back together, and then they take off and fly away. So the next story, the Webbed Planet, or the Web Planet. I always called it the Webbed Planet, but reading the blurb, because I don't remember much about this story, a mysterious force pulls the TARDIS off course, stranding the Doctor, Ian, Barbara, and Vicky on the mysterious alien world of Vortis. A fierce battle raging between a moth-like Menopatria, there you go, and a giant insect known as Zarbi. But what is the dark secret that hides in the center of the Zarbi's lair? Don't remember, pretty much because the story is very easily. But the moth-like creatures get the Doctor to help them defeat the Zarbi, the ant-like creatures, kind of like trapping him into technology and all that stuff, and figure out what's going on. Ian, Barbara, and Vicky don't really do much in the story. They just basically either sit around in the TARDIS or try and help the Doctor. Realistically, I don't remember the ending, so it's not really much of a review. But the thing is that it's very forgettable. Moving on to the next story, The Crusade, an actually interesting historical one I only watched recently. So, the Crusade, 12th century, Palestine, with a holy war in progress between the forces of King Richard the Lionheart and Saracen ruler Saladin. Barbara is abducted in an ambush. The Doctor, Ian, and Vicky ask the king to help to recover her, and he equips Ian with a knighthood, so he's now Sir Ian Chesterton, to assist in her rescue, and Vicky asks the king for help. Oh no. However, the Earl of Leicester is suspicious of the Doctor's influence at court and believes him to be a spy. Against all odds, can Ian rescue Barbara, and can the quartet return safely to the TARDIS? Yes. Because, Barbara proposes herself as the king's sister. Kind of like similar to the Romans, with that like random antics around it all, really. It's actually interesting historical, like I said. Similar to the Romans with the antics. But that's the blurb basically summarizes everything. Not point of a blurb. But yeah. It's good. Worth a watch. Yeah. Moving on. The Space Museum. Summary of this: the TARDIS lands, and the crew find themselves in the TARDIS crew find themselves in the museum. It turns out they're out of phase of time, so they're seeing the future of what's going to happen to them, and they try and prevent it. But then halfway through, it turns into a political thing, like rebels, and the whole thing. It's very confusing. And again, like the Web Planet, sadly, it's easily forgettable, because that's pretty much the summary of it is. The TARDIS crew are out of phase with time. They try and resync it. I think that, they do in the end. Then it suddenly turns into like rebels against something, and geopolitical stuff, it's very hard to kind of get a grasp of it because... But, an interesting one. More Daleks with the chase. Basically, the TARDIS crew try and outrun the Daleks. I can't remember the sequence of events if it goes in with the TARDIS landing and taking off, but they do actually have an interesting origin of the Mary Celeste incident with just Daleks appearing and the crew just jumping overboard. But this is where Ian and Barbara leave, and we gain the new companion of Stephen. The Daleks make a clone of the Doctor to try and trick the crew, which doesn't really work and the clone fails. Yeah. So, yeah. Oh, and the Daleks, big point of this, the Daleks now have invented a similar thing to the TARDIS for time travel, to chase the Doctor down, literally called the chase. They go to, well, the Mary Celeste incident, 60s New York, 90s amusement park. There's another place they went to, but I can't realistically remember. And yeah, we lose Ian and Barbara, but we gain Stephen, which isn't a blessing, because in the Time Meddler, which I would say is the origin of the sci-fi historical stories that New Who does with their historical stuff, I have a theory that this was an original idea for the Master. You know, wonderful Master. This is the meddling monk, also a Time Lord with a TARDIS that has a working chameleon circuit. But Stephen wants the Doctor to convince him that this is a time machine, not just a spaceship. So they go to 1066, where with Northumbrian coast, Viking helmet. Yeah. Saxon hunter with wrist watch. Monastery. Yeah. Basically, the monk wants to just advance the human race beyond and love everything. But that's the end of season 2, the Time Meddler. But by the end of it, Stephen does believe it is a time machine because the monk locks them up at one point, then they escape. I think they again then get locked up again. But the Doctor messes with the dimension controls of the monk's TARDIS. So when he tries to leave, his TARDIS is like the interior is like small. But that's season 2. Next video I'll be covering season 3 and season 4A, because season 4 was kind of split in a weird 2-section thing because of their first Doctor's regeneration. But I hope you enjoyed the video. It's much shorter than the first one because I've had to explain less, and I've kind of skimmed through a lot of it because season 2 is an interesting season because nothing really much happens, but it is an intriguing sort of thing. So, hope you enjoyed. Comment below if you've seen this before and you have your own opinions of the thing, opinions on the episodes. So see you next time. Bye.